I'm Matt Clark, research analyst with Money and Markets with your weekly marijuana market update. Before I start, as I usually do, after you watch this video, I do want to make sure you head over to moneyandmarkets.com, sign up for our free daily e-letter. From Sunday to Saturday, you get a free e-letter that contains safe, sound, smart, simple, profitable investment information from myself, from Charles Sizemore and Adam O'Dell, plus many, many others. Team works very, very hard each and every day to make sure you have that information ready for you in the morning. Each and every day. So go to moneymarkets.com, sign up to get that safe, sound, smart, and simple, profitable investment information every day for free. I'm also on Clubhouse now too. If you're not familiar with that, that is a social media app that is right now only available for Apple users, but I think they're going to be migrating and getting Android users in soon. Each week, I sit down with Money Markets publisher Nate Vandenberg, and we discuss the stock market. We look ahead to the week coming up. We take a look behind, see what happened in the previous week. You can check that out each and every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Just make sure you are on Clubhouse. Follow me. Just look for Matt Clark. I'll be the one that has the pretty picture of the face here, or not so much. And just follow me, and you'll get alerted every time we schedule a new meeting, a new room. We're going to launch different rooms in the future, including perhaps a cannabis investing discussion as well. So make sure you jump in for that. Now, there's one more thing I want to note before I get into this week's podcast. A few weeks ago, I did a video responding to a viewer about Pot Network Holdings Incorporated, trades as a POTN over the counter. And in doing the research on their website, I found that they have, it's a holding company that has basically not holdings of companies, but holdings of products. And I found that they list on their website a partnership with both Tommy Chong and former NFL linebacker Lawrence Taylor. Well, I found out that one of those partnerships is not actually accurate. According to his management, Tommy Chong is actually no longer affiliated or in partnership with Pot Network and has not been for some time now. So I just want to make sure that I clear that up, and be as transparent as I can with that his management reached out and said that he is no longer involved and has not been for a bit of time. So just pass that along. Now on with today's podcast. Over the last few weeks, I've talked about legalization measures either passed or in discussion across the country and even with Congress in Washington, D.C. You can check out all those videos that I've done here on YouTube. Now, today I want to look at the future of markets in states where adult use cannabis is either legal or nearly legal, and it's kind of interesting to see what you find. I looked at a few select states where cannabis has already been legalized and markets have already been established. And I found a good growth pattern in most of those states. In fact, I found good growth pattern in all those states. All told, the cannabis market in the U.S. is estimated to be around $20 billion, according to the data firm New Frontier Data. Now, by 2025, the same firm projects total legal cannabis market reaching about $41.5 billion, thanks in large part to initiatives by other states to legalize. Other projections have that a bit smaller, at around $30 billion, but those projections can be dated. And some of the biggest growth over the next year are going to be in large market states like California, Washington, Illinois, Michigan. And keep in mind, the data may be off a bit on the estimates that you see in the graph here. Actuals tend to be kind of all over the place. So the key here is to look for the increase, not necessarily measure the exact dollar. They're relatively close, but they could be off ever so slightly. Now, California could see its market nearly double from $4.4 billion in 2020 to more than $7 billion in 2022. That's next year. That's a doubling of the market size in just 2 years. That's pretty expansive. Michigan could more than double its market share size as well, going from around $500 million in 2020. Remember, it's a very new state, to around $1.4 million in 2022. Massachusetts could also see similar growth as well, although it's been a little bit established a little bit longer. I think Illinois' projections are actually pretty soft. I think that market's going to expand faster than analysts realize. I mean, you've got big population areas like Chicago and Springfield and Peoria, and I think that its expansion could be in the neighborhood of $2 billion by 2022. Now, one thing you have to consider is the size of these states. California, Illinois, and Michigan are all very, very populous states. They're big population states with a huge base. So it's logical to think that their market size is actually going to increase by larger percentages than those of smaller states like Oregon and Vermont. Now, in terms of states that have legalized but yet to have any sales, all eyes are really on New York. I've talked about New York before, and the state recently passed a measure to legalize adult use cannabis. Sales won't actually take place probably until next year at some point in time. A lot of regulations to get lined out. The licensing process is going to be one they're going to have to iron out. It's going to take some time before you're actually going to start seeing sales. New Jersey has kind of spurred that on based on their passage back in November. I talked about, like I said, I talked about the legalization in New York in a recent episode of the Marijuana Market Update. You can watch that here on YouTube as well. Market estimates are kind of all over the place in terms of what New York's market size is going to be. Forbes recently said that the state expects to bring in about $1.2 billion in sales by 2023. That's just in a year of actually having sales legalized. Now, remember, New York has a population of around 20 million people, so it begs to consider that that's a legitimate possibility. But Forbes also said that increase could be up to $4.2 billion by 2027. So in just 5 years, that's going to go from 1.2 to 4.2. That's a pretty sizable increase. The data firm Grandview Research suggests New York market could see sales of more than $7 billion by 2025. That would rival sales in California. Is that aggressive? I think it is. I don't know that it reaches quite that high. I think Forbes may be right closer in the ballpark, but New York is a big state. And no matter which data point you believe, the issue here and the thing you have to take away from is that sales in New York are going to be big and perhaps even more than Illinois in their first year of sales. But we can't just justify this kind of market expansion just based on current population. It's easy to do that. You try to take the percentage of people you expect to use cannabis, multiply that by the average cost, and try to figure out it's kind of diluted, complicated math. So I dug a little deeper, and I want to see if there's a trend in the market that could point to why expectation is for such large market growth without federal legalization. Federal legalization changes the ballgame for sure, but we have to right now consider that it's not going to happen because it's been discussed, but nothing's actually been pushed forward in Congress. And I found something pretty extraordinary. In 2012, New Frontier data found that only about 7.1 Americans use cannabis on a monthly basis, and only about 11.6% use cannabis about once a year. So they kind of took it in terms of monthly and annual usage, just because not everyone uses cannabis every month, and it was kind of it's a different process. Now this year, 2021, that's expected to balloon to about 11.7% of Americans using at least once a month. That's more than how many said they use only once a year back in 2012. Now, how many are using once a year? 17% of Americans will likely be using cannabis at least once a year this year. This suggests that more and more Americans are actually using cannabis recreationally. But of course, it's legal. Why would you not? Some of that could be because more states have legalized, opening the population up. But you also have to consider that more Americans are reaching that legal age in states where it is legal, whether it be 18 or 21. More and more Americans, millennials are already past that point. Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever generation you want to call it, they are getting up in age to where it's now legal for them to actually purchase and use cannabis products. One thing out of all this is certain: the market is growing, and it's a perfect opportunity to invest in cannabis-related stocks. There are some hurdles, though. The licensing process in some of these newer states is either a bit complex or not even worked out yet, as is the case with New York. But experienced cannabis companies that have been there before, like some of those on our watch list, have already licensed in other states, and they already kind of have the know-how to navigate through those waters already. So it's a good bet you want to find a cannabis company that's already kind of established and that already has a good base of sales in other states to suggest they might, because they already have that footprint and they already have that groundwork done that they can just transfer to another state and vary it based on different regulation glitches and twitches and things like that. Now, I want to take a look at our money markets cannabis watch list. I won't go into too much detail because our watch list overall gains haven't really changed dramatically since last week. Average gain of our 7 positions is about 48.4% as I record this on Tuesday. That's slightly higher than last week, where it was around 47%. We've seen nice share price growth in companies like PerkinElmer Incorporated. It is now at double digits, up 13%. A few weeks ago, this stock was trading flat. So they've had some nice new initiatives, some new testing procedures, and they've contracted with some more companies to do additional testing. That's pushed their stock price up as investors are getting more and more interested in what PerkinElmer is doing. Both Schweitzer Maudet International and Turning Point brands are up more than 60%. And Grow Generation pushed 98% last week, but pared back and is now up at about 87%. I still think this is going to get back into triple-digit territory here in the coming future. I've had some questions about other stocks to evaluate. I'm going to address those in coming updates, so make sure you stay tuned. I have not forgotten about you, and I've got several on the docket that I'm going to look into and release videos on, so make sure you stay tuned here on our Money Markets YouTube channel. If you have a cannabis stock that you would like me to look at, just email me, feedback@moneyandmarkets.com. I am more than happy to do that. Love to do it. I've got a long list, so bear with. It's going to take me a little time, but I do want to get to them and address them as quickly as I possibly can. Coming up this week, we're going to have much more. I'll have the Bull and the Bear podcast, as well as our Money Markets Week Ahead on moneyandmarkets.com. So make sure you stay tuned and check out that for Money and Markets. Also, don't forget to check out our new Ask Adam Anything video, where I post questions that you send me to our chief investment strategist, Adam Odell, and they range from everything. I think I've even asked him what the meaning of life is. So just to tell you, it stretches the gamut. So make sure you stay tuned for that. That's on our YouTube channel every week. And also, Green Zone Fortune's co-editor Charles Sizemore has a weekly series called Investing with Charles. He breaks down stocks each and every week. You want to pay attention to that because he's got some great insight into various stocks, including those with dividends. So that's very important. You want to make sure you check that out also on our YouTube channel. Check out moneymarkets.com each and every day. We provide content that gives you safe, sound, smart, simple investment information to bolster your portfolio. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst with Money Markets, your host of the Marijuana Market Update and the Bull and the Bear podcast. Until next time, everyone, safe trading.